Last night, I watched my relationship die over a cup of lukewarm tea and a sentence I still can't believe left his mouth. My mom thinks an open relationship is the best solution for us, Samuel said quietly, like he was suggesting we try a new restaurant. I kind of agree. Kind. My name is Isabella, but most people call me Bella. I'm 29, I write code for a living, and until about 12 hours ago, I honestly thought I'd already met the man I was going to marry. We've been together almost 2 years. We've done all the normal couple things: weekend hikes that left our legs aching, movie nights with takeout cartons scattered across his coffee table, sleepy good morning texts before work. We're not perfect, but we've always been solid, steady, safe. The problem was never between us. It was sitting in his phone under mom, buzzing at 10 p.m., 6 a.m., during date nights, during lunches, filling his head with fears that didn't belong to him. When I walked into his apartment last night, I thought we were going to talk about boundaries with her. That was the plan. I had rehearsed calm sentences in the car, fingers clenched around the steering wheel, telling myself I wasn't crazy for wanting my boyfriend to stop letting his mother run our lives. Instead, I found out that while I'd been losing sleep, she'd been gaining ground. Samuel sat on the edge of his couch, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on a crack in the floorboard like it held the answer to all of this. My mug of tea cooled between my palms, untouched. "So let me get this straight," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "Your mother suggested you date other people while we're still together, and you think that's a solution?" He flinched at the word mother, but he didn't deny it. "It's just one date," he said, "with my mom's friend's daughter. Coffee. She thinks I need to explore before I commit, and if we agree to an open relationship for a while, it'll calm her down. She'll stop fighting us." My heart didn't break cleanly. It splintered. Because this wasn't a stranger asking him out. This was my boyfriend, the man who knew how I took my coffee and which side of the bed I hated, calmly telling me he'd already agreed to go. Saturday, 3 p.m., a time slot like a tiny funeral. I stared at him, my throat tight, my pulse drumming in my ears. Somewhere, buried under the shock, a thought surfaced, cold and sharp. If his mother can talk him into dating someone else while I'm still here, what else can she talk him into? And as he kept talking about options, about not wanting to regret anything, about staying together while he figures things out, I realized something even uglier. This wasn't the first time she'd tried to rewrite his life. It was just the first time I was the part she wanted to erase. And last night, sitting on that couch with my tea going cold and my future evaporating, I finally understood. This story didn't start with an open relationship. It started the first time I met his mother, and she decided I wasn't enough. If you had asked me a month ago to describe my life, I would have told you it was stable, predictable in a comforting way. I loved my work, I loved my routines, and I loved Samuel, deeply, quietly, in the kind of way that makes you start picturing shared furniture and dual incomes, and maybe, someday, a tiny pair of shoes by the door. I'm not dramatic by nature. I don't fall fast. I don't fantasize about weddings or rings or timelines. But with Sam, things unfolded naturally, like stepping into warm water without realizing how deep you've gone until your shoulders are submerged. We met at a friend's concert, one of those indie outdoor events strung with fairy lights and too many people pretending to know the lyrics. I was there for the music. He was there because his coworkers dragged him along. He accidentally spilled cider on my jacket, apologized a dozen times, then bought me a replacement drink and stood with me the rest of the night. It didn't feel like flirting. It felt like recognition. Our first date was a 4-hour conversation disguised as a walk. Our second date was a movie where I barely remember the plot because we whispered commentary the whole time. By the third, we both pretended not to notice that we were already tangled into each other's lives. His laugh was easy. His affection was consistent. And his mother, well, she was a distant dot on the horizon. I'd only heard about her in vague anecdotes, strict, opinionated, intense. But every family has dynamics you learn to respect from afar. The first and only time I met her before everything fell apart was at his cousin's wedding a year ago. A gorgeous lakeside venue, hundreds of guests, and me in a dress Samuel said made me look like sunlight in motion. I was nervous, wanting to make a good impression. When he introduced me to his mother, she smiled politely, complimented my earrings, and asked about my job. It was fine, pleasant even. Nothing that hinted at future disaster. But 20 minutes later, some old friends spotted me across the room. We hugged, caught up, laughed about college memories. Nothing inappropriate, nothing neglectful, just a normal social moment at a wedding. When I returned to the table, Samuel's mother looked off. Her smile too stiff, her eyes too flat. I brushed it off. Samuel didn't mention anything. The night carried on. Looking back, that was the moment. The fracture so small I didn't feel it until the break split open. Because according to Samuel, months later, during an argument, she'd disliked me from that night forward. Why? Because I didn't devote enough attention to her. Because I dared to speak to other people at a social event. Because she felt overshadowed, ignored, or whatever story she told herself to justify the resentment. I had no idea. None. I was still attending family events, still greeting her warmly, still trying to build a relationship with a woman who had already decided I wasn't good enough for her son. Meanwhile, Sam and I were growing closer. I started leaving a toothbrush at his place. He learned to cook my favorite pasta dish. We went hiking every other Saturday. We watched entire shows together, argued about character arcs, laughed until we couldn't breathe. We didn't fight much, just the usual small things couples navigate. His father loved me, his friends loved me, Sam loved me. But his mother? She was chipping away at us one comment, one argument, one manipulation at a time. Once or twice a month, she'd summon him for dinner. He'd return tense, withdrawn, deflated. He always minimized it. It's nothing, just stress. But eventually he admitted that she spent those visits telling him he wasn't ready to settle down, that he needed to explore, that he shouldn't invest too heavily in someone he'd only known 2 years. She didn't say my name, but she didn't have to. I didn't know then that she had been saying the same thing for years, even before me. That his entire dating history was littered with her disapproval, her meddling, her sabotage. All I knew was that the man I loved was slowly being pulled in 2 directions. Toward a life we could build together, and toward a mother who feared losing control more than she valued his happiness. I didn't realize how deep her influence ran until the night Sam came home shaking, saying she had a nervous breakdown at dinner because he mentioned our upcoming trip. I should have seen then that something in their family wasn't just dysfunctional, it was dangerous. But love has a way of blinding you, and I was still holding on to the version of Samuel who spilled cider on my jacket and smiled like he was already falling. If I had listened more carefully, maybe I would have caught the warning signs, the small shifts, the pauses that lasted half a second too long, the way Samuel's voice tightened every time his phone lit up with Mom flashing across the screen. But I didn't. I saw stress and assumed it was work. I saw tension and assumed it was the normal tug of war between adulthood and family expectations. What I didn't see, what I refused to see, was that something was slowly poisoning the edges of our relationship. It started subtly. We'd be curled up on the couch watching a movie, his hand resting warm against my thigh, and then his phone would buzz. He'd check it, and the warmth would drain from him like someone pulled the plug. "Everything okay?" I'd ask. "Yeah," he'd say. "It's just my mom." Just, as if that word could soften the impact. Sometimes he'd put the phone down without saying more. Other times he'd sigh, run his hands through his hair, and lean back like the weight of the ceiling was suddenly too much. I didn't want to interrogate him. I trusted him. I trusted us. But trust can make you naive, and I was, painfully so. The first real crack appeared one evening when Sam came over after visiting his parents. He didn't even take off his coat before slumping onto my couch. "What happened?" I asked gently. He hesitated. "We argued. She doesn't think I'm making good choices." "About what?" He stared at the floor. "Everything." He said it like a joke, but it wasn't. His eyes were too flat, too defeated. Later that week, he told me that during dinner, his mother spent 30 minutes insisting he wasn't ready for commitment, that he needed to date around, that settling with me was premature. I tried to be calm, reasonable, mature. "Well," I said carefully, "what do you think?" "I think she just wants what's best for me." My stomach twisted. "And you don't think I could be good for you?" "That's not it." He shook his head, frustrated. She thinks I'm limiting myself." Limiting, like love was a cage, like loyalty was a flaw. I brushed it off because I didn't want to seem insecure, but deep down, something sharp lodged itself inside me. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself he'd work through it. I told myself mothers worry, that's what they do. But this wasn't worry. This was sabotage wrapped in maternal concern. A few weeks later, the situation escalated. His mother began texting him articles, studies about people marrying too young, cautionary tales about relationships that failed because of inexperience, stories of women who trapped men into settling before they'd lived enough life. Sam showed me a few. At first, he laughed them off, but then he stopped laughing. He started questioning. "Do you ever feel like we're rushing?" he asked once. "Rushing what?" I said. "Life, our future." "We don't even live together," I reminded him. "I know," he murmured, but something in him was shifting, bending, softening under pressure that wasn't his own. Then came the dinner where his mother had what Sam described as a meltdown. He told her about our weekend trip, the simple getaway we'd been planning for months, and she burst into tears at the table, hysterical, saying she'd failed him, saying he was making irreversible mistakes, saying he was throwing away his potential. When Sam told me this, his hands were shaking. She said, "If I don't date more people now, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." I stared at him. "And do you believe her?" He didn't answer. That was answer enough. The real tipping point came 3 days later. His mother suggested, no, insisted, that he meet the daughter of one of her friends. She was single, accomplished, a much better match, according to her. I felt the first true spike of panic then. "Sam," I said quietly, "you're not actually considering it, right?" He looked at me with guilt heavy in his eyes. "I don't know what to do. She won't stop. She thinks I owe her at least one date." Owe her. As if a grown man's romantic life was currency he could repay. I tried to stay calm, but something in my chest cracked open. That night, as he held me, his arms felt different. Not like a promise, but like someone trying to hold two worlds together while both were pulling him apart. And somewhere deep inside, a truth I didn't want to acknowledge whispered its first warning. This wasn't just pressure. This wasn't just a controlling parent. This was a battle for him, his identity, his decisions, his autonomy. And little by little, I was losing. The night everything snapped didn't come with shouting. It wasn't dramatic or theatrical. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that hums, tense and electric, right before something breaks. I drove to Samuel's apartment after work, gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary, rehearsing exactly what I needed to say. We'd been circling the same storm for days, and I was exhausted. Hopeful, still, but exhausted. When he opened the door, he looked like he hadn't slept. His hair was messed, dark circles under his eyes, shoulders slumped like someone had hung weights from them. He stepped aside to let me in. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey!" My voice barely made it out. We took our usual places, him on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, me sinking slowly into the opposite cushion. Between us, his coffee table was cluttered with a half-finished mug and his laptop, still open to an unread message from his mother. It felt symbolic, her presence in the room even when she wasn't physically there. "I think we need to talk," I began, palms damp. "Really talk. Not avoid, not minimize." He nodded without looking at me. I swallowed. "Sam, I'm not okay with what your mother is doing, and I'm not okay with how much power she has over us. Over you." He rubbed his palms together, staring at the carpet. "I know you're upset." "This isn't upset," I said, feeling my throat tighten. "I'm scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of being pushed out of your life by someone who shouldn't have this much control over it." His jaw clenched. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "I love you, but I can't compete with your mother, and I shouldn't have to." For a moment, just a moment, I thought those words would reach him. His shoulders softened, his eyes flickered with something like understanding. Then he exhaled shakily. "She just wants me to keep my options open, Bella." I froze. He kept going, oblivious to the way my heart dropped. "She thinks I need to experience more before settling down. That an open relationship might help us." My breath caught in my chest. "An open relationship?" I whispered. He nodded, eyes darting away as if ashamed. "She thinks it's the best solution." "And you?" My voice trembled, despite my efforts. "Do you think that too?" He hesitated, a long, unbearable beat, before whispering, "Maybe." The room tilted. I sat up straighter, pulse hammering. "Sam, are you saying you want to date other people while we're still together?" He flinched as if the words stung. "It wouldn't be like that. It would just be one date, to ease her mind, to show her I'm not closed off." My hands went cold. I stared at him, hardly recognizing the man in front of me. "And when is this one date supposed to happen?" I forced out. He swallowed hard. "This Saturday." I went still. The air seemed to vanish from the room, leaving only a humming silence and the faint tick of the wall clock. Saturday. 2 days away. He had agreed. He had committed. While I was still here, still his girlfriend, still building a life with him, he had chosen to sit across from another woman because his mother told him to. I covered my mouth, feeling something inside me twist, raw and agonizing. "Sam," I whispered, "how could you do this?" "It's just coffee," he whispered back. "No," I said, shaking my head, tears gathering hot and sharp. "It's betrayal." He finally met my eyes then, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw fear. Not of losing me, but of defying her. "This is insane," I said, my voice cracking. "Your mother doesn't get to dictate our relationship. You're a grown man." "She's only looking out for me," he argued weakly. "No," I said sharply. "She's controlling you, and you're letting her." His breathing hitched. "I don't want to upset her. I can't handle another meltdown." "And what about me?" I asked, voice breaking. "What about the woman you claim to love? Do my feelings matter less because I'm not your mother?" He didn't answer. The silence was louder than shouting. Then, just when I thought I'd heard the worst, he said the sentence that shattered the last piece of my faith in us. "She convinced me that exploring options might help me understand what I really want, and maybe an open relationship could keep things fair." Fair. The word echoed like a slap. My breath came out in a tremble. "So you want me to sit at home," I said quietly, "while you date someone else your mother approves of?" "No, Bella, it's not like that." "It is exactly like that." He reached for me, but I leaned away, my stomach twisting into knots. Then he offered the final insult disguised as a compromise. "I'll go on the coffee date. Then we can take a 1-month break, just to leave things amicably." A break, while he explored, while I waited. Something inside me hardened so quickly it was almost physical. A click, a lock snapping shut. I stood, wiping my tears with the back of my hand. "Okay," I said. "If that's what you want, then fine." His eyes widened with shock and fear. "Bella, wait!" But I was already gathering my things. My jacket, my keys, my dignity. He followed me to the door, voice shaking. "This doesn't mean I don't love you." I paused long enough to look him in the eyes. "Sam," I said softly, "love is a choice, and tonight, you chose her." Then I walked out. The hallway smelled like dust and old carpet. My hands shook as I hit the elevator button. My reflection in the metal doors blurred by tears I refused to let fall until I was alone. As the elevator descended, one truth settled deep, cold, and immovable. This wasn't a fight we'd had together. This was a fight I'd already lost, because he wasn't mine anymore. He was hers. The drive home that night was a blur. Streetlights smeared into streaks of gold, my fingers numb against the steering wheel, the taste of metallic panic sitting on the back of my tongue. I don't remember the turns I took or the songs that played on the radio. All I remember is the weight in my chest. A pressure spreading outward, slow and suffocating, like my ribs were struggling to contain something breaking inside. When I finally stepped into my apartment, the quiet hit me like a punch. No Samuel's coat on my rack, no leftover takeout boxes from the night before, no soft hum of him showering in the bathroom while humming whatever song he'd gotten stuck in his head. Just me, and the echo of a sentence I couldn't erase. "She convinced me an open relationship might help us." I dropped my keys on the counter, wincing at the sound. My hands were shaking again, a tremor I couldn't stop no matter how tightly I curled my fingers. I sat down on the couch, our couch, the one he'd helped me carry up 3 flights of stairs, and pulled my knees to my chest. I tried to breathe, but my breath came shallow, uneven. I wasn't the dramatic type. I didn't cry easily. But that night, tears spilled before I even realized they'd gathered. How had we gotten here? Just 3 months ago, Samuel had kissed me on a hiking trail after we reached the summit, pulling me close with that stupid, proud grin he always had when I beat him to the top. He'd told me he was lucky, that he couldn't imagine being with anyone else. And now he was going on a date because his mother asked him to. I pressed my palms to my eyes, forcing myself to inhale, exhale, again. What did I miss? I whispered into the empty room. What was I supposed to see sooner? Had I overlooked the signs? The dependency? The fear he had around disappointing her? The way he shrank after every visit home? Was this my fault? The question hit hard, sharp enough to make my stomach twist, because a part of me, no matter how unfair, wanted to believe that if I had been better, prettier, smarter, more impressive, more something, maybe his mother wouldn't have hated me. Maybe Sam wouldn't have caved. I shook my head quickly, as if I could physically push that thought out. "No," I muttered, wiping my face. "You didn't fail. She manipulated him, Not you. But even as I said it, doubt crawled in again. I stood abruptly, pacing. Movement helped me think, or helped me feel less like collapsing. After 10 minutes, I grabbed my phone and called the one person who always understood, my friend Marlene. She picked up immediately. Bella, it's late. What's wrong? My voice cracked on the first syllable. He's going on a date. What? She snapped. With who? Some woman his mother picked out. A beat of stunned silence. Then, tell me you're joking. I let out a weak laugh. Wish I were. What the hell? Bella, that's insane. That's disrespectful. That's not how someone treats the partner they love. I sank back onto the couch. He said it was just coffee, that it would calm his mother down. He said maybe an open relationship would help us. I heard Marlene inhale sharply. He said that to you? Yes. There was a long pause, then her voice softened. Sweetheart, I know you love him, but this isn't normal. This isn't healthy. He's letting someone else puppeteer your entire relationship. I know. My voice came out small. But part of me still wants to fix it. Of course you do, she said gently. But you can't fix someone who won't stand up for himself. Or for you. We talked for almost an hour. Mostly her reassuring me. Mostly me trying not to cry again. When we hung up, the apartment settled back into silence. I walked into my bedroom and caught sight of his sweatshirt draped over my chair. He'd left it a week ago. It still smelled faintly like his cologne, cedar and clean cotton. I lifted it, hesitated, then pressed it to my chest, closing my eyes. I loved you, I whispered. And I realized the tense wasn't accidental. Loved, passed. Something shifted inside me then. Not anger, not resentment, but clarity. A painful, necessary clarity. Love wasn't supposed to feel like begging for respect. It wasn't supposed to feel like competing with someone's parent. It wasn't supposed to feel like losing your sense of worth. And Samuel, whether intentionally or not, had asked me to do all three. I sat on the edge of the bed, the sweatshirt still in my hands, and forced myself to ask the hardest question of all. Do I want to keep fighting for someone who won't fight for me? My chest ached. My throat tightened. But the answer, the truth, came quietly, like dawn seeping into a dark room. Maybe the real betrayal wasn't just the date. Maybe the real betrayal was that he didn't think I was worth defending. For the next few days, everything felt suspended. I went through motions, showering, working, eating in small, absent-minded bites. But my mind was always looping back to the same place. Back to Samuel's living room. Back to the way his voice wavered. Back to the way he couldn't look at me when he told me he had a date scheduled. Saturday crept closer like something stalking me from the corner of my vision. Every morning, I'd wake up thinking maybe he'd text and say he'd changed his mind, that he'd stood up to her, that he'd realized how wrong this was. But there was nothing. No apology, no attempt to fix anything, no sign of the man I thought I knew. By Wednesday, the silence was unbearable. I needed answers. Closure, clarity, something, so I called him. His voice sounded strained when he answered. Bella? Can we talk? I asked. A pause then. Yeah, of course. We agreed to meet at a small park halfway between our apartments, neutral ground where neither of us held too much emotional territory. When I arrived, he was already there, pacing near a bench. He looked like he hadn't slept, like guilt had wrapped itself around him and wasn't letting go. But guilt wasn't the same as change. I stopped a few feet away. Hi, he swallowed. Hi. We sat, a space between us that felt wider than any distance I'd ever experienced with him. He ran a hand over his face. I've been a mess since you left. You could have called, I said softly. I didn't know what to say, he replied. Everything feels complicated. Complicated. A word people use when they're too afraid to tell the truth. Sam, I said gently but firmly, do you even want to be with me? Or are you staying because you feel guilty? His eyes widened. Of course I want to be with you. I love you. Then why are you going on a date? He opened his mouth, closed it, looked away. I told you, my mom... No, I cut in. Don't give her the blame. I'm asking you. His jaw clenched as he stared at the ground. She made me doubt myself, he finally admitted. She keeps saying I haven't lived enough life, that I'm rushing, that I should explore before making decisions I can't undo. You think dating a stranger will give you answers about us? I asked. He shook his head weakly. I don't know. And you're willing to hurt me like this? My voice cracked. For her comfort? He winced. You don't understand the pressure she puts on me. Then explain it, I said. I want to understand. He exhaled shakily. She's been having breakdowns about me settling down. Crying, yelling, saying she wasted her life not dating more. She says she doesn't want me to make the same mistakes she did. I felt a cold, creeping understanding. This wasn't about me. Not really. This was about her, projecting her regrets onto him, molding him into the life she wished she had lived. But that didn't excuse what he'd agreed to. So, I said quietly, she's scared. And because she's scared, you think you have to be scared too. He didn't respond. I leaned back, feeling exhaustion settle in my bones. Sam, I can't build a future with someone who's too afraid to choose me. He looked up sharply. I do choose you. You chose the date, I whispered, and that hung between us like smoke. He opened his mouth, then shut it, defeated. When he finally spoke again, his voice was small. I feel trapped, Bella, between the woman I love and the mother who raised me. I can't make them happy at the same time. And so you'll sacrifice me because it's easier? I asked. No, that's not... He stopped, gripping his hair in frustration. I just need time, space, a chance to figure things out. By dating someone else, I said bitterly. He didn't deny it. My chest ached, not with sharp pain, but with a slow burn, like a bruise spreading under the surface. Please, he whispered, just give me this 1 month. I don't want us to end badly. I stared at him for a long moment. He wasn't malicious. He wasn't cruel, but he was weak in the places it mattered most. And weakness could hurt just as deeply as intentional betrayal. I'll give you your month, I said finally, but I'm not waiting for you. His face crumpled. Bella! I stood. You made your choice. Now I get to make mine. I walked away before he could respond, feeling his eyes on my back, heavy, desperate, and far too late. But the escalation didn't stop there. 10 days after that park meeting, I ran into one of Samuel's coworkers, Maya, at a coffee shop near my office. We recognized each other instantly. Bella, hey, she smiled. How are things with Samuel? He said you two were taking space, but... My stomach dropped. What did he tell you? Her smile faltered. Just that things were rough. That he felt you were getting... controlling. Controlling. My jaw fell slack. What? Maya's eyes widened. Oh God, did I say something wrong? I shook my head, stunned. That's not what happened at all. And standing there in that coffee shop, I realized something awful. Samuel wasn't just confused. He wasn't just manipulated. He was rewriting our story to make himself look like the victim. I felt sick. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed. Samuel, can we talk tonight, please? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Maybe I should have ignored him. Maybe I should have walked away for good. But closure is a seductive lie, whispering that one more conversation might make everything hurt less. So I typed back. Fine, one last time. Not knowing that the conversation ahead would reveal an even deeper rot, one that began long before me and one that his mother had been cultivating for years. I didn't sleep the night before meeting Samuel again. I lay awake in the blue wash of my bedroom, staring at the ceiling, feeling the cold crawl of dread settling beneath my ribs. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him sitting across from me at the park, torn, confused, swayed by a woman who wielded his emotions like strings on a marionette. A month ago, I would have called Samuel my safe place. Now I wasn't even sure I knew him. When I finally met him again, at a quiet bench outside my apartment complex, there was something haunted in his expression, but I didn't let myself soften. I couldn't. I needed clarity, not comfort. He sat down first, and I joined him, leaving just enough space to remind us both that we weren't us anymore. He exhaled. Bella, there's more I need to tell you. My stomach nodded. I figured. He looked down at his hands, wringing them. I went on the date. I nodded, expression steady, even as something inside me split. Was it worth it? He flinched. No, it was terrible. We had nothing in common. I kept thinking about you the whole time. Then why go? I asked softly. Really, why? He stared at me, eyes shiny with guilt. Because I didn't know how to disobey her. She was so sure this would fix things. She said if I just gave it a chance, she'd stop interfering. A humorless laugh escaped me. And did she stop interfering? His silence was the answer. Then he added, barely audible, she also contacted my ex. My heartbeat stuttered. What? She's been talking to her for months, trying to arrange a coincidental meeting, saying she regrets pushing her away before, that maybe she made a mistake. I pressed my fingers to my forehead, feeling them tremble. So this wasn't just about me. It wasn't even about the other woman. His mother was trying to rewind his entire life, pulling him back into versions of himself he no longer was, all because she couldn't tolerate losing control. I whispered, and you never told me. I didn't want to hurt you. I looked at him, eyes burning. You hurt me anyway. A long, brittle pause. Then he said something that knocked the breath out of me. I panicked, Bella. My whole life, I've never been allowed to make big decisions without her approval. College, career, where I should live, who I date. If she disagrees, she makes it hell. Crying, screaming, guilt, silent treatments, she breaks down. And so she broke you, I murmured. He didn't deny it. He didn't need to. I leaned back, swallowing hard. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you let me help you? Because I didn't realize how bad it was until I saw what it was doing to us. His voice cracked. And by then, it felt too late. It was too late. I felt it, bone deep, like the two of us were standing in the smoking remains of something that used to be beautiful. Bella, he whispered, voice trembling. I want to fix this. I looked at him carefully. Do you? Or do you just want me to wait while you decide if you want me or your mother's approval? I want you, he said. I do. Then why do I feel like your backup plan? His breath hitched, but he didn't deny it. Not immediately. Not fast enough. That pause was the final wound. I felt the shift, the letting go, the realization that I'd crossed the threshold where hope could no longer sustain me. My voice was quiet but steady. I can't do this anymore. His head snapped up. Bella! This isn't healthy, and it's not your fault. I know your mother manipulated you. I know she twisted everything. But knowing that doesn't make the pain smaller. It doesn't make the betrayal disappear. He looked like he'd been punched. I'm trying, he whispered. I'm trying to change. I know, I said softly. But I can't be with you while you're learning to stand up to her. That's a battle you have to fight alone. Tears slipped down his face. So, this is it? I nodded, my own tears blurring the world around us. I love you. But love isn't enough when it's only coming from one direction. He let out a choked sob and reached for my hand. For a moment, I let him hold it, a brief, heartbreaking reminder of what we used to be. Then I pulled away. His hand collapsed into his lap, trembling. I'm sorry, he whispered. I really thought I could keep you both. A hollow ache spread through me. No one can serve two masters, Sam, especially not when one demands your whole life. He bowed his head, shoulders shaking. I stood slowly, feeling the weight of the moment settle into my bones. Goodbye. Bella, he said, voice cracking like glass, please, don't go. But I had to, for my dignity, for my sanity, for the version of me who deserved more than to be second place to someone else's mother. I walked away, and this time he didn't follow. For a while after that final conversation, my life existed in fragments. Wake up, work, eat if I remembered, sleep if I could. Grief isn't loud. Not at first. It's quiet, like a draft under a door you keep meaning to fix, a persistent ache, a whisper reminding you something has been ripped from you without clean edges. But somewhere beneath that ache, something else was forming. Not strength, at least not yet, but clarity, a steadiness, a truth settling into place like sediment after a storm. And then, unexpectedly, the universe handed me the missing piece. It started at a coffee shop. 10 days after the breakup, I ran into Maya, Samuel's coworker. We weren't close, but we'd met enough times at holiday parties and company events that she hugged me when she saw me. Bella, hey, haven't seen you in forever. She pulled back, smiling. How are things with Samuel? I froze. We broke up. Her smile fell. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. He told us things were getting bad, but I didn't think... My stomach twisted. What exactly did he tell you? She hesitated, lowering her voice. Just that things were tense because you were getting controlling, that you didn't want him to have any female friends or make decisions without you. Controlling. There it was again, the narrative he'd replaced me with. It felt like someone had poured ice water down my spine. I never said or did anything like that, I whispered. Maya's eyes widened. Oh, Bella, I didn't mean... It's okay, I cut in softly. Thank you for telling me. But inside, something cracked in a way that felt irreversible. Samuel hadn't just failed to protect our relationship from his mother. He'd protected himself by throwing me under the bus. He was rewriting history to absolve himself of guilt. And for the first time since the breakup, I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt done. As I walked back to my car, the air felt different, sharper, cleaner, powerful. That clarity solidified 2 days later, when I got a call from an unknown number. Hello? I answered cautiously. Bella, this is Richard, Samuel's dad. I blinked. Hi, is everything okay? Can we meet? He asked, voice low. I think I owe you an apology. I met him at a diner a few hours later. He sat across from me, looking tired but sincere. First, he said, I am sorry for everything my wife did. and for everything she pressured Samuel into. My heart thudded. You know about the date? He nodded grimly. I know about all of it. I swallowed hard. Why are you telling me this now? He exhaled. Because I recently found out she wasn't just interfering with your relationship. She has been contacting Samuel's ex behind his back for months, trying to orchestrate a chance reunion. She's sabotaged every serious relationship he's had. I felt a chill run through me. He continued, My wife. She has control issues that have affected our marriage for years. I thought I was shielding Samuel from it, but I see now I failed at that. She manipulated him, emotionally, psychologically, and he never learned how to make decisions without her approval. Pain rippled through me, because it explained everything. His mother wasn't just overbearing, she had systematically undermined every partner who threatened her grip on her son. I wasn't special, I was simply next in line. Then came the part that shifted the ground beneath me. She didn't just push him to go on that date, his father said quietly. She told him that if he didn't explore other options, she would cut him off emotionally and financially. She told him he was repeating her mistakes, and she would not support him choosing a life too early. My breath caught. So Sam hadn't been choosing between me and freedom. He'd been choosing between me and the woman who controlled his entire emotional foundation. Still, it didn't excuse his choices. It explained them. But explanation is not absolution. I whispered, Thank you for telling me. There's more, he said gently. Samuel is devastated, but I want you to know this clearly. None of this was your fault. You didn't push him. You didn't pressure him. She did. I met his eyes. He still chose to betray me. Richard nodded sadly. Yes, and I'm not excusing that. But I want you to understand that Samuel has never made a major decision on his own. Not one. Not without his mother's approval. A long silence stretched between us. Then he added softly, he was never truly ready to be someone's partner. Not until he learns to be his own person first. Something inside me loosened, an invisible weight unhooking itself from my ribs. For the first time, I didn't feel like I'd failed. I didn't feel not enough. I didn't feel replaced. I felt free. Later that night, standing in my kitchen with a cup of tea warming my hands, I realized I was breathing normally for the first time in weeks. The truth didn't heal everything, but it shifted the wound, made it less about being unwanted and more about escaping something I never should have been tied to. Samuel hadn't chosen another woman over me. He'd chosen his mother's control over his own independence. And I could not, and would not, compete with that. Not anymore. In the weeks that followed, the universe seemed to rearrange itself, not all at once, but piece by piece, like a slow rebalancing after an earthquake. And as everything shifted, the fallout began landing exactly where it belonged. Not on me, on Samuel. I didn't intend for things to unfold this way. I wasn't seeking revenge. I wasn't talking to mutual friends or trying to expose him. I was just moving on, quietly, slowly, carefully. But truth has a way of slipping through cracks, no matter how tightly people try to seal them. The first sign came through a mutual friend, Aiden, who texted me out of nowhere. Aiden, hey, I saw Sam today. He looks terrible, like legitimately bad. Is everything okay? I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, me. We're not together anymore. Long story. There was a pause. Then Aiden wrote, Aiden, he's telling people you were controlling and wouldn't let him figure things out. People aren't buying it. They think something's off. I didn't reply to that part. I didn't need to. Because soon after, the lies started unraveling without me lifting a finger. The first collapse, his friends. Samuel had always been close with his group of college buddies. 6 of them, loud, chaotic, inseparable. They adored me. We'd spent holidays together, game nights, camping trips. They saw how we were together. They knew. So when Sam told them I was controlling, they questioned it. When they learned he had gone on a date arranged by his mother, they questioned harder. And when, through the relentless rumor mill, word reached them that he'd lied to coworkers about our breakup, they confronted him. Aiden told me later. He froze. He couldn't defend himself. We asked if he cheated. He said no, but the date thing, that was basically emotional cheating. People are pissed. I didn't rejoice. I didn't gloat. But I did exhale, because truth was finally speaking without me needing to. The second collapse, his workplace. A week after that confrontation, Maya emailed me. Maya, I told the team the real story. I hope that's okay. No one thinks you were controlling anymore. They kind of think he was manipulated and folded under pressure. And they're mad he dragged your name into it. I never once asked her to clear my name. She did it because she believed the truth mattered. Samuel's reputation didn't implode, but cracks formed, deep ones. People noticed the pattern. Every time he made a mistake or felt insecure, he blamed someone else. It wasn't just me he had misrepresented, it was his exes, his coworkers, his friends. His mother trained him to shift responsibility, and he had learned that lesson too well. Now it was failing him. The third collapse, his family. Richard, his father, kept in touch. Not often, but enough to let me know how things were shifting at home. One night he called me, voice low and tired. Samuel and his mother, he sighed. They had a massive fight. The kind that's been building for years. My heart tightened. What happened? She found out he told me the truth about her interference. She said he betrayed her. He said she ruined his life. It got ugly. I closed my eyes. Richard continued. He finally admitted he doesn't know who he is without her approval, that he's scared of disappointing her, scared of choosing wrong. He said losing you was the wake-up call he never wanted. My breath caught. He said that? Yes, and Bella. He's starting therapy. I leaned against the counter, the weight of those words sitting heavy in my chest. Therapy. For the first time in his life, he was stepping outside her shadow. But it didn't change anything for me. Growth doesn't erase harm. Healing doesn't rewind time. Awareness doesn't restore trust. I wished him well, truly, but I had already crossed the point of no return. My calm exit. A month after the breakup, Samuel texted me. Samuel, can we meet just once? My chest tightened. I considered ignoring it. But closure wasn't fear for me anymore. It was finality. So we met. In a quiet park. The same one where things had begun to unravel. He looked thinner. Shoulders slumped. Dark circles etched under his eyes. Bella, he started softly. I'm so sorry. For everything. I waited. He swallowed. I went back to therapy because I realized I've never made a decision without my mother's voice in my head. I'm trying to fix that. I'm glad, I said sincerely. He nodded, eyes glistening. I miss you, every day. I think about what I threw away. Sam, I said gently, you didn't throw me away. You gave me the freedom to walk toward something healthier. His face crumpled. I know we can't undo things, he whispered. But is there any chance at all, that someday we could try again? I looked at him for a long, quiet moment, and for the first time, I felt no ache, no longing, no wish to rewind time. Just peace. No, I said softly, but I hope you become someone you're proud of. He nodded slowly, tears slipping down his cheeks. I stood. Goodbye, Samuel. This time, when I walked away, the pain didn't follow me. Only clarity did. The fallout was complete. His friends saw the truth. His coworkers corrected the story. His father confronted the dysfunction. His mother lost her grip. And Samuel, he finally faced himself. Not because I punished him, not because I fought back, but because truth has gravity, and it always pulls people back to the consequences they tried to outrun. It's strange how healing begins. Not with a grand revelation, not with a cinematic moment, but with quiet days, small breaths, tiny choices that slowly rebuild you. For me, it started with a simple morning. 3 weeks after my final conversation with Samuel, I woke up, stretched beneath soft sunlight, spilling through my curtains, and realized I felt light, not euphoric, not triumphant, just unburdened. There were no notifications from him, no dread churning in my stomach, no mental gymnastics to justify someone else's choices, just peace. I made coffee, opened my windows, stood barefoot on my balcony, feeling cold air kiss my skin. And for the first time in months, I felt myself, entire. I had spent so long trying to hold together a relationship where one hand was pulling me close and the other was pushing me away. I didn't realize until it ended how much I'd contorted myself, shrinking, softening, compromising, to fit into a space that was never stable to begin with. But here's what I learned. Love can't survive in an environment where one person has to weaken themselves to make space for someone else's fear. Not fear of commitment, not fear of intimacy, fear of disappointing someone who should never have held that power. Samuel didn't lose me because he loved his mother too much. He lost me because he didn't love himself enough to stand apart from her. And I learned that loyalty means nothing without boundaries. I still think about him sometimes, not with longing, but with a soft sadness. A what could have been if he'd been raised differently, supported differently, allowed to form his own identity. But I don't regret leaving. Leaving wasn't punishment, it was protection of my dignity, my peace, my future. A few days ago, I finally retrieved the last thing I left at Samuel's place, a box of books. A friend handed it to me. sparing both of us awkwardness. Inside one of the books, tucked gently between the pages, was a note from him. Thank you for helping me see what I couldn't. No relationship is wasted if you walk away with wisdom you didn't have before. Samuel is working on himself. His father is rebuilding his own life. His mother is confronting behaviors long ignored. And me? I'm not rushing toward anything new. I'm not searching for someone to fill the silence. I'm getting comfortable with my own company, stronger than I thought I could be, clearer about what I will and will not allow in my life. If there's one thing I hope people take from my story, it's this. You can love deeply without abandoning yourself. You can forgive without returning. You can walk away and still wish someone well. Healing doesn't mean forgetting the pain. It means learning who you are after surviving it. And I'm finally, beautifully, finding out who that woman is.